John Petrucci, a musical architect of the 21st century, is a co-founder of Dream Theater, main guitarist, sound engineer, and producer. However, he is not your typical rock celebrity. There is no drama. There were no scandals that made headlines. Petrucci selected the most challenging course in music, the path of discipline, boundless creativity, and silence. He maintains a quiet and precise demeanor, allowing his guitar to communicate, in a time when guitarists frequently must shout to be heard. Riffs that twist like labyrinths, solos that cast charms, and song structures that span tens of minutes yet are captivating like cinema. Petrucci. Music is intended to be experienced, not merely heard. However, what factors contributed to his development? A boy from Long Island, who was raised in a home reverberating with the melodies of his siblings' piano and bass, initially aspired to become a musician solely because his sister was permitted to remain up late. A close companion of Mike Portnoy, who subsequently lost that friendship as a result of artistic decisions. A man who possesses the physique of a bodybuilder, yet communicates through gentle, emotional tones. Let us explore the journey of John Petrucci, the individual who opted to exist in a state of complexity in order to create melodies that captivate the world. Childhood. The peaceful seaside hamlet of Kings Park, Long Island, New York, was the birthplace of John Petrucci on July 12, 1967. Where the melodies of pianos and clarinets drifted from every window, mingling with the sound of waves. However, his family, who were of Italian-American descent, led a modest existence that was deeply rooted in the arts. In that household, each infant was a living instrument. His junior sister played the clarinet, his sister played the piano, and his brother played the bass. John did not regard music as something remote. It was the sound of infancy. The tranquility of evenings following supper, when the entire family would dissolve into a hushed harmony. At the age of 8, John acquired a guitar for the first time, not out of a profound affection for music, but for a very childlike cause. His sibling was permitted to remain up late in order to practice the piano. He believed that if he learned to play the guitar, he would also be able to remain up late. However, that aspiration was abruptly shattered when John was unable to endure the early morning wake-up call for school. The guitar was concealed in a closet, as if it had been neglected. His life was transformed by an unexpected invitation from his close friend, Kevin Moore, at the age of 12. Kevin, who would subsequently become Dream Theater's keyboardist, invited John to join his band, and the instrument was once again brought out. However, this time, John was not playing to prolong his stay. He was engaged in the game because he felt as though he belonged. The initial enjoyment quickly evolved into a habit, a ritual, and ultimately a personal devotion. Petrucci spent 6 hours each day with his guitar, examining every note and exploring techniques, while his companions played basketball. He was captivated by the recordings of Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Morse, and Randy Rhoads, and he did not merely listen. He meticulously examined each vibrato, tone, and phrasing choice. Petrucci's childhood was not characterized by trauma, familial strife, or any significant turning point. Rather, it was influenced by an even more potent force, obsession. An obsession with musical structure, perfection, and the transformation of the instrument into a new language that required no words to express his emotions. His later musical journey was founded on this same serenity, which was complemented by an internal drive for excellence. A journey that did not commence with applause, but rather with the gentle strum of a guitar, as quiet as a breath, in the cramped bedroom of a youth on Long Island, marked the beginning of his early career. John Petrucci was no longer a mere adolescent who fiddled with an electric guitar in awe at the age of 18. He was a youthful guitarist who possessed a profound comprehension of musical structure, technique, and, most importantly, a fervent aspiration to transcend the confines of genre. The doors of Berklee College of Music in Boston, the cradle of expert musicians, were opened to him by that very ambition. There, destiny initiated the initial stages of the formation of Dream Theater. Petrucci met John Mayung, a bassist with a musical depth as substantial as his own, and reunited with his childhood friend, Kevin Moore, at Berklee. And then Mike Portnoy arrived. A drummer who possessed a fire-like passion and a machine-like precision, completing the trio that would eventually create the band Majesty. The name was grandiose, but at the time, they were merely first-year students, overflowing with ambition in a frigid dormitory. Nevertheless, within a year, all three made the courageous decision to discontinue their studies and pursue a professional music career. It was not a denial of academic enthusiasm. It was a realization that their music needed to be cultivated through real-world experience, through the rigors of touring, through endless nights in the studio, and not restricted to the confines of theory classes. Majesty was promptly obliged to modify its name as a result of trademark issues. Consequently, Dream Theater was established, drawing inspiration from a movie theater owned by Portnoy's father. In 1989, they released their debut album, When Dream and Day Unite, in collaboration with vocalist Charlie Dominici. Although the album did not generate a significant amount of attention, it served as a subdued manifesto. Petrucci was entering a phase in which he was unable to be stopped, and Dream Theater was prepared. There was considerable difficulty during the initial stages. They were ignored by record labels, encountered financial difficulties, and had to contend with the preservation of their musical identity in a market that was oversaturated with grunge and glam metal. But Petrucci's cold-blooded determination never wavered. He was unwilling to sacrifice the fundamental nature of their music in order to appease the populace. Rather, he composed compositions that spanned 10 to 15 minutes and were characterized by classical harmonies, odd time signatures, and guitar techniques that necessitated absolute precision. Surprisingly, he was not solely the guitarist. He was the technical genius, the architect of song structures, the tone shaper, and the harmony writer. One who established the band's entire artistic trajectory. John Petrucci was not solely a promising guitarist in his 20s. He was already establishing the groundwork for his empire as a musical architect. And that ideal theater, was only just beginning. Success with Dream Theater. Dream Theater resurfaced in 1992 with a new lineup, just 3 years after the release of their nearly forgotten debut album, When Dream and Day Unite. Charlie Dominici was succeeded by James Lubrie, a Canadian vocalist. Then, everything underwent a significant transformation. The emergence of images and language. A pivotal development. In it, Pull Me Under, a track that is nearly 9 minutes in length, features complex time signatures, a non-traditional chorus, and radio-friendly production, unexpectedly became a success. It propelled Dream Theater from an underground act to a defining icon of progressive metal by breaking into MTV's top rankings. However, this was not a mere coincidence for John Petrucci. It was the outcome of nearly a decade of diligent practice, structural musical reasoning, and a deliberate rejection of commercial trends. From the outset, Petrucci established his own artistic standard, which was to create music that would both challenge the intellect and evoke the emotions. Dream Theater's identity was significantly influenced by this ethos. A band that could be identified within a few notes. The period from 1992 to 1999 was of paramount importance. In 1994, Awake introduced a more technical, heavier, and darker sound, indicating the band's determination to transcend formulaic limitations. However, this was also the moment when internal fractures began to emerge. Kevin Moore, the original keyboardist and childhood friend, departed as a result of creative differences. Despite Petrucci's silence in public, his supporters were aware. This was not solely a situation of professional failure. It was an injury that wounded me personally. Nevertheless, Dream Theater's most potent creative phase was initiated under Petrucci's leadership, rather than faltering. Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory, 1999, is now celebrated as a masterpiece of contemporary progressive metal. It was not merely an album. It was a narrative. A 77-minute tragic, reincarnative drama that is conveyed through music and lyrics. Petrucci co-wrote the majority of the tracks, composed the musical screenplay, and organized the entire piece, from the introduction and overture to the climax and resolution, in the manner of a spiritual film that was told through sound. He not only played the instrument, but he also conceptualized the narrative's entire emotional landscape. Dream Theater achieved new levels of complexity and profundity with each subsequent album. The 40-minute title track of 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, 2002, delves into a variety of mental disorders with a philosophical and epic tone. Train of Thought, 2003, represented a significant shift toward heavier metal, directly addressing primal instinct. In 2005, Octavarium was a sonic epic that focused on cycles, featuring a 24-minute title track that revolves around the concept of the creative circle, in which the beginning is also the end. From machine gun alternate picking to solos that were crafted to resemble dramatic melodies, Petrucci's structural mindset was evident in all his work. Petrucci did not compose scattered melodies. He developed multi-layered musical systems in which each passage served a specific purpose, each chord represented a narrative chain, and each solo was a dialogue. There is no excess or deficiency. After Mike Portnoy's departure from the band in 2010, which was a seismic event among fans, John Petrucci not only maintained the unity of Dream Theater but also assumed the role of primary producer, which signaled a dramatic turn of events. 2011, he acquired the skills necessary to operate the studio, supervise the technical staff, and work in conjunction with mixer Richard Sitchie. Dream Theater's DNA was preserved, despite the absence of Portnoy for the first time. Unspoken statements were made. Petrucci was the backbone, the axis. His boundless ambition was further illustrated by his subsequent albums, such as The Astonishing, 2016, a rock opera that lasted for more than 2 hours. Despite its polarizing nature, it demonstrated that Petrucci would consistently experiment, investigate, and dare to create what others deemed excessive. The albums A View from the Top of the World, 2021, and Distance Over Time, 2019, further confirmed that Dream Theater did not require a softening in order to sustain itself. They were only required to remain authentic. Petrucci has been a trailblazer in the development of a comprehensive personal brand, in addition to his musical career. The John Petrucci Majesty signature guitar, which was created by Ernie Ball Music Man, is a representation of meticulous refinement. The Petrucci plugin by Neural DSP, an archetype, remarkably replicates his tone. Millions of individuals emulate and follow his instructional books, gear configurations, and masterclasses. And most importantly, Petrucci never pursued the limelight, despite his success. He declined to become a rock icon. There will be no media theatrics, formulaic music videos, or attention-grabbing sound bites. He executes the task with a singular and concentrated gaze. A trembling fingertip on the strings, and allows the music to communicate. The success of Dream Theater, if it must be personified, may legitimately belong to the entire band. However, John Petrucci is the technical spirit, the structural heart, and the guiding hand behind it all. Projects outside of Dream Theater. Despite the fact that John Petrucci has dedicated nearly his entire existence to Dream Theater, he has never been a man who was constrained by boundaries. He does not regard music as a container. It is a three-dimensional coordinate system in which each inventive branch has the potential to open a unique path. This insatiable curiosity has propelled him to pursue a variety of musical endeavors, which have provided him with the opportunity to express himself in a unique manner, as well as to find freedom and breath. In 1998, Petrucci collaborated with Mike Portnoy on drums, Jordan Rudess on keyboards, and Tony Levin on bass, who was previously associated with King Crimson and Peter Gabriel, to establish an ensemble known as Liquid Tension Experiment, LTE. This collaboration occurred during a period between Dream Theater albums. However, LTE was not a conventional band. It was a genuine musical laboratory, unencumbered by lyrics, uninfluenced by conventional song structures, and unaffected by the market. It was an act of unadulterated creation. Petrucci relinquished the image of the disciplined conductor and transformed into an aural explorer at this point. Exploring the realms of fusion jazz, progressive instrumental, electronic, and even modern classical. Paradigm Shift, Universal Mind, Acid Rain, and each track a surreal painting, where each note was akin to a photon colliding in space. Also, what distinguished it? The entire performance was conducted in real time within the studio. No post-production adjustments, no overdubs. Each component was a plunge without a safety net. LTE reunited in 2021 with the album LTE 3, signifying a high-energy comeback after more than 2 decades of separation. This was the first time Petrucci, Portnoy, and Rudess had worked together since Portnoy left Dream Theater in 2010. The reunion caused a powerful reaction among the fanbase. They played without speaking, and the world comprehended. Genuine music is devoid of adversaries. Petrucci's debut solo album, Suspended Animation, was published in 2005. This instrumental project is a stark contrast to Dream Theater. In this context, he was liberated from the constraints of band dynamics, which required him to maintain a balance between technique and narrative. He performed the music that was deeply rooted in his psyche, incorporating a cinematic quality, a burst of shred, and a touch of blues, all while maintaining a heartbeat beneath each note. 15 years later, in 2020, Petrucci unexpectedly returned with his second solo album, Terminal Velocity, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was an emotional reconciliation with Mike Portnoy following a decade of separation. A calm social media post, rather than a flashy promotional campaign or dramatic press release. I required a drummer who could comprehend my intentions without the use of language. Portnoy arrived discreetly and proceeded to perform as though they had never parted. Terminal Velocity was not merely a solo album, it was a message of reconciliation, a message about the gravitational force of music, time, and friendship that reunites individuals beyond past rifts. In addition to his performances, Petrucci has been a trailblazer in the development of a comprehensive personal music brand. He collaborated with Ernie Ball Music Man to create the John Petrucci signature guitar line, with a particular emphasis on the Majesty. Considered to be one of the most sophisticated, precise, and comfortable guitars ever manufactured. He created the Petrucci plug-in archetype with Neural DSP, which is an incredibly precise replication of his entire tone system, including preamps, EQ, chorus, phaser, and delay. He released the instructional video, Rock Discipline, in the field of education, which has been a legendary program that has guided millions of guitarists worldwide. For Petrucci, no detail is too minor. A single instrument, an EQ band, and a gain level. He must ensure that all items are meticulously handled. He is not motivated by commercial appeal, rather, he is of the opinion that any work that bears his name must embody the genre of music he is interested in. Eternal. Unyielding. Petrucci's endeavors extend beyond Dream Theater, demonstrating more than merely technical proficiency. He discloses the individual. A musician who is unafraid to travel alone, who does not shy away from friction, and who always maintains a personal creative space, is one who never stops learning. Not as a retreat, but as a place to breathe, regenerate, and ultimately return to Dream Theater more fully formed and original than ever. Personal life. During his performances, John Petrucci exudes a stoic demeanor, flawless technique, and eyes that appear to penetrate any distraction. However, when the strings cease to play and the amplifiers are turned off, he is a completely different individual. Simple, reflective, and profoundly emotional. Petrucci is married to Rena Sanz, the guitarist of the all-female heavy metal band Mean Streak. Their relationship began when they were both teenage musicians just starting out. They have discreetly supported each other for decades in a world where artist marriages frequently last no longer than a tour. There are no scandals, no commotion, and no public displays, only harmony between two individuals who comprehend that the most enduring love is the one that allows the other to be entirely themselves. Petrucci has consistently upheld a distinct distinction between his public life and his family, as they have 3 children together. He seldom discusses his children during interviews. He does not share photos, do not bring them to award ceremonies, and do not use his family as props to enhance his public image. Family is the shade that prevents the spirit from burning out, while music may be the light to him. What few anticipate. Petrucci is intensely dedicated to fitness in addition to music. He prioritizes physical health as the cornerstone of sustainable creativity, adheres to a rigorous diet, and engages in daily exercise training. His bodybuilder physique has astounded numerous admirers, distinguishing him from the frequently gaunt, worn-out figures of the rock world. However, Petrucci's motivation is not merely aesthetic. It is a method of preventing the psyche from collapsing. Petrucci is a man of principle, he once stated in a rare interview. He refrains from consuming alcohol while working, refrains from playing video games until the wee hours of the morning, and refrains from bringing his laptop into the practice room. His schedule is akin to a living Excel sheet, with each hour meticulously documented. He is able to maintain a sense of stability in an industry that is characterized by disorder, despite the fact that it may appear to be mechanical. However, he is not frigid. Petrucci is frequently described as warm, deferential, and unexpectedly humble by those who have encountered him in person. He is averse to being referred to as a guitar deity, rejects fan idolization, and frequently declines teaching invitations if he is not adequately prepared to provide a meaningful lesson. He regards the creation of music as a noble endeavor, rather than a privilege. He is burdened by the notion that there is never enough time to completely fulfill all of his responsibilities: creator, father, spouse, and artist. However, he continues to perform the task without any protest, in a discreet manner. A heart that is sustained by discipline, anchored by love, and burning with a conviction that an artist's life does not have to be boisterous in order to be great is concealed beneath the steel exterior. Occasionally, the most profound expression of genuine devotion is silence, as it is unwavering, complete, and complete. Controversies and shadows. One aspect of John Petrucci that elicits both admiration and apprehension is not his technique. It is entirely under his authority. He is in control of his own rhythm, composition structure, interview responses, and even himself. In the opinion of Petrucci, art is not a space in which one can express their emotions, weep, or bare their psyche. He is the dispassionate engineer who is constructing musical blueprints that allow no margin for error, and art is architecture. However, it is precisely this rigidity that facilitated the formation of fractures. When Mike Portnoy, Dream Theater's friend, co-founder, and musical partner of more than 2 decades, abruptly departed in 2010, Petrucci said little. His professional statement was succinct. There are no grievances or accusations. However, it was a surprise to the long-standing admirers. Portnoy was not merely the percussionist. He was the sole individual capable of challenging Petrucci's artistic abilities. Petrucci's hyper-ordered world necessitated the chaotic other half to maintain equilibrium. Dream Theater did not disintegrate following Portnoy's departure, however, there was a transformation. Decreased in volume. The subsequent albums were scrupulously crafted, technical, and clean, however, they lacked the emotional friction that had previously propelled the band to great heights. Despite the fact that no one ventured to express it explicitly, a significant number of fans believed that Petrucci had transformed Dream Theater into a flawless blueprint, but the band had lost some of the fervor that had previously driven albums such as Train of Thought and Scenes from a Memory. He maintained the ship's course, ensuring that it did not veer, not even by a single inch. Years later, a brief comment made during an interview in Europe once again sparked controversy. He responded, "I support Trump," when questioned about his political beliefs. "I believe that he is deserving of an opportunity." It was not severe. It was not a promotional statement, rather, it was a personal opinion. But it was sufficient for the progressive community, which is generally left-leaning and open-minded, to turn their backs. Petrucci was perceived by them as a musical architect of intricate concepts and a symbol of intelligence. Presently, they perceived him as a conservative, perilous, and errant genius. Petrucci did not respond or offer an apology. He continued to compose music without interruption. However, an enigmatic boundary appeared to emerge between him and the public at that moment, an invisible glass wall. He was no longer the pristine hero, but a human being who was capable of making decisions that disappointed others. Petrucci is not renowned for his easiness, even within Dream Theater. He is meticulous, perfectionistic, and operates like a machine. However, this has resulted in a sense of suffocation for many. Rumors abound that, despite the rigorous nature of their auditions, even newly selected members are subjected to significant pressure to meet expectations. Each recording session is a trial. Each tour serves as an exercise in stability. His voice is never raised by Petrucci. However, his gaze, which is composed and calculating, renders negligence impossible. It is the force of discipline, but it is also the darkness of rigidity. And it is widely recognized that prolonged silence can be more forceful than any confession. This is the reason why John Petrucci is both revered and avoided by many. They admire him for maintaining a level of seriousness in art that is uncommon among his peers. The reason they maintain their distance is that he appears to have no need for anyone and does not permit anyone to genuinely connect with him. Indeed, it may be precisely that. Petrucci is a unique figure due to his unyielding discipline, his refusal to compromise, and his harshness. In a society where artists are expected to be captivating storytellers in order to survive, he opts for stillness as a protest against the prevailing tide. This silence is more profound than the most powerful downstroke he has ever executed. John Petrucci, who is now in his 50s, continues to maintain the physique of an athlete, with long, salt and pepper hair that cascades down his shoulders, and a concentrated gaze that is as razor-sharp as the alternate picking he has mastered over the course of 3 decades. In 2024, Petrucci embarked on a daring new chapter by reuniting with Mike Portnoy, his longtime bandmate who had been absent from Dream Theater for more than a decade, while many of his peers began to retreat or rely on past accomplishments. There was no grand announcement, no dramatic story of enemies becoming allies, just music, once again, mending a broken thread. The outcome was a significant milestone. The album Parasomnia. Dream Theater's 16th studio album, Parasomnia, was released on February 7, 2025. It was a vivid declaration that males over the age of 50 could still create music that was as intense, intricate, and daring as it was in their youth. Petrucci, who served as the principal composer and producer, collaborated once more with Portnoy, Labrie, Myung, and Rudess to produce an album that explored the intricacies of the psyche, nightmares, sleep disorders, and the shattered memories that exist between dream and reality. It was not merely music, it was an internal voyage. Dream Theater once again served as a reminder to the world that they are not in existence for the sake of nostalgia. They continue to compose history. Petrucci also proceeded to broaden his personal influence beyond pure musicianship in 2025. He was the host of the annual Guitar Universe 5.0 event at Hilton Lake in Las Vegas, which was attended by some of the world's most renowned guitarists, including Tosin Abasi, Guthrie Govan, and Chris Broderick. Notably, Mike Portnoy was an honorary visitor for the first time. This was not merely a workshop. Petrucci constructed a microcosm for guitar enthusiasts to experience the genuine intensity of the craft, the art, and the commitment. In terms of legacy, Petrucci is not an individual who initiated a trend. He is an individual who has maintained a level of discipline. Petrucci adhered to a philosophy that was uncommon in the guitar world, where players frequently pursued fashions, shred today, gent tomorrow, and TikTok content the following day. Music must strike a balance between intellect and emotion, logical structure and the artist's passion, elite technique, and personal storytelling. That is why he became a guiding figure for generations of guitarists, from new players who are revisiting the rock discipline to renowned artists such as Tosin Abasi, Mark Holcomb, and Misha Mansour, who all cite him as a compass for modern guitar mastery. He has been recognized as the most influential guitarist of his generation on numerous occasions by Guitar World and Guitar Player magazines. Consistently regarded among the greatest guitarists of all time, alongside legends such as Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, and Alan Holdsworth. However, the implicit respect he commands from industry insiders may be even more significant. Petrucci does not require the largest stage, the longest solos, or viral content. People are aware that the standard has been elevated when he takes up a guitar. Petrucci has never endeavored to become a legend, which is truly remarkable. No, he has never written an autobiography, produced a documentary about himself, or utilized the media to enhance his image. He continues to work, play, and refine the craft he began at the age of 12, when a child named John decided to spend 6 hours a day practicing in his small bedroom. Perhaps this is the reason for his legacy's distinctiveness. Applause, awards, or rock star designations do not define it. It is the result of quiet persistence, unseen discipline, and notes that appear invisible, yet penetrate the deepest layers of those seeking structure in the midst of interior chaos. John Petrucci is not associated with the entertainment industry. He is not associated with any particular tendencies. He is a musical structure that is perpetually in motion and characterized by precision. What are your thoughts on John Petrucci's extraordinary journey? What is the most memorable event of his career? And which Dream Theater song has had the most profound impact on you? Please express your opinions in the remarks section below. Please remember to like and subscribe in order to continue your exploration of the lives and legacies of the world's finest musical legends. I appreciate your attention. I will see you in the subsequent video.